Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am so glad you've joined me today. My name is Tammy Ernest and I am a long arm quilter, and here on my channel I like to share customer finishes as well as my own projects. So thanks for joining me today. I have a full episode of customer finishes and they are beautiful. I hope this is full of lots of inspiration for you. Quilts that you would want to make on your own, or pantographs that you want to use on your quilts. They are just absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to show you. So I have several things. We're kind of going to do it in themes today. I have several quilts that have already gone back home, but I still want to show those to you because a couple of those are autumn quilts, and I think it's perfect time to be looking at those and getting some inspiration. Probably too late to be making them for this year, but things that you can definitely go ahead and purchase and then have in your plans for 2024. I also have a baby quilt that I finished for my niece that I haven't shown yet, so I want to show some pictures of that. My own personal sewing this week, I have spent some time, I did some mending for one of my sons, and then I also started making some design boards. I've got scraps of batting that I wanted to use up, and I've had some of the foam core board sitting around my sewing room. I just need to get used, so I want to put them into, or make them into design boards. So when I get those finished, I'd love to show you those as well. Those are a fun project to do. I like to use the leftover batting, and I also like to use leftover bindings for those, and so I will show you those hopefully next week. And I'm not going to show you my mending. I'm sure you have plenty of your own that you can work on as well. Let's start with the baby quilt that I made for my niece. And so I had shown you this when it was in progress, but I never showed you finished pictures of it. So let me insert some pictures of it once I had it done. So my niece has already received this, her baby. This will be her first baby, and her and her husband are expecting the little guy to come in December, so not too far off. So here's the picture that they sent to me asking if I could make a quilt similar to this. This actually is not a quilt from what it looks like to me. It may be some fleece fabric, maybe with a knitted backing to it or something like that. But it's more the pattern that they were looking for. So I just used 2.5-inch squares. I did show you this as I was working on it. I have a few strips left over. So when I was making this, I cut my strips from my fabrics 2.5 inches wide, and then I joined the strips together. And then once I had strips together, then I subcut it like this. That makes the whole quilt a lot faster to go together. They like the color scheme of this quilt that I showed, so the tan with the cream, and but they wanted the cream on the back as well, and then I did the tan as the binding on it. And so this finished at 42 by 56, so 21 across and 28 down, and just did it in 2.5-inch strips. Really simple quilt. And the fabric line that I used on this was this this tan color. This is Thatched by Robin Pickens. And I have already, this is fabric that I had left over from that quilt. So once I'm finished with fabric and there is enough, obviously I did plenty of this, this is how I store my yardage of fabrics. And so I used these cardboard. These are meant for comic books, and I buy these off of Amazon. I'll link that down below. But they're just the comic board, cardboard type inserts. And this is what I wrap my yardage on. So anything that goes on these is usually about a yard or more of fabric, not my bolts. If I buy a bolt of something, I leave that on the bolt. And then I store this right outside my sewing room. I've got some shelving there that's actually built into the knee wall of the upstairs. and really beautiful. It's like wood shelving and everything. I just love it. But so that's where all of these are stored vertically on that one. So this one I have several, probably a good 2 yards left of this one by seeing how much is there. I don't mark on these how much fabric I have. I can kind of tell by the thickness of it how much is there. And then I also have some of the other print left over, and this is a coordinating print, I believe, from Robin Pickens, but I don't have the selvage on this. This one, there's not quite as much left, but it was enough that I didn't want to put it into my my smaller bins with that have like fat quarters and that sizes. So there was enough here that I actually wanted to put on here. So you can kind of see how I wrap it up. So I take my fabrics. This one's a little different, so this is how much is left. So probably a yard, if you like that. So probably a yard. So usually what I do, I will take my yardage, and let me show you on this one. I'll take my, it's a little easier to see with this one. So I'll take my yardage and I'll lay it out on my cutting table, and I will fold it in a little less than thirds, if you can see that. I don't do any hard and fast measurements, but just something that's about, I like the cardboard to peek out over the edges, and so I'll fold my yardage in so it just kind of overlaps like that. And then I just take the cardboard, this one's already in here, but I can show you. I take the cardboard and just wrap it around. If I let the fabric drape off the end of my cutting table, then as I'm folding it, it kind of keeps it taut and folds it real simple. And then I usually just tuck in the edges underneath, and then I put it on my shelvings like that. You could pin these. I don't. Mine's tight enough in the shelving that it kind of holds everything together, and I don't have too much of a problem with it. But that's how I use these. I do like this because I can see from the side, and when it's on the shelf, I can kind of tell how thick it is on the side, so that kind of gives me an indication how much fabric is there. And I like that I can see everything at once. It's like going into a quilt store and all your bolts being on a shelving. You can see all of them, and I really like this. I do normally organize them according to color. Actually, these I did not. They were sitting on the shelf next to each other, but they're both kind of light colors. So I'll put all my blues together, all my blacks, all my reds, all my greens, and kind of coordinate it that way. These two kind of go together, so I did leave them together on the shelf, but I just really like to be able to see everything, and I think it's beautiful sitting on a shelf. So that's how I store my yardage prints. Back to the baby quilt. So you can see from the pictures that the pantograph I chose, this is the diagonal plaid bias cut, and I just think this added so much texture to the quilt. They're having a boy. Not that this is necessarily a boy quilt. I think it's more of a gender neutral type of quilt. But I didn't want to put swirls or flowers or something because it is a boy's quilt. It could be used later on for a girl, but I just wanted to do something that added a lot of texture. And I didn't want to go straight lines, again, because this is just very boxy, straight vertical and horizontal lines. I wanted to add a little bit of dimension in there, is the reason I went with that, the diagonal plaid. I love this. Diagonal plaid has one that is not the bias cut, that is actually, you know, more square, straight lines. I like the bias cut because it adds just a touch of roundness, just a touch of a different geometric element there by rounding the corners just a tad bit, that I think it softens the quilt just a little bit. I love this pantograph. This is one of my go-tos, especially for t-shirt quilts. You've probably heard me say that before. But it adds so much texture to a quilt, and I just really like it. I did shrink this down a little bit, so you can tell by the squares, those squares on the quilt are finished at 2 inches, and so that square on the bias cut is about that same, but it's tipped in the diagonal. So really love this quilt. I think it turned out really, really pretty, and I know they'll be happy to use it with the new one that's coming along. So let's move on to, I have a couple autumn quilts, and let's start with the first one here. So Laurie's quilt is so beautiful. It's already gone back to her. This one measured 62 by 68, so a nice throw size quilt. The fabrics in this one, well, let's start with the pattern. The pattern is a disappearing 9-patch pattern. You can do search on YouTube and find tons of tutorials, or even on on the internet itself, and find some blogs that show this tutorial. So I'll leave that pattern to that. I love the colors that she's used in this, such rich fabrics. The red, she said, a lot of these were from various collections from older prints that she had in her stash. So she says the red is a Bernatex's Gold Garland. There's some sunflower prints that's from Welcome Harvest by Color Principle. Some of the newer prints she used is the Reflections of Autumn in the multicolored leaves, and then also the backing fabric. The backing fabric is actually a flannel, and this is an Autumn Harvest, green leaves and berries. This is super soft. This added such a nice texture to the back of this quilt. Don't be afraid to use cottons on the front and flannels on the back. It's a good combination, especially for your fall and winter projects. They quilt up really nice. It's just a nice feel for those warmer quilts that you're wanting instead of the cool cotton. The pantograph that Laurie chose for this is called Timeless Greenery, and this one was a new one that I had used, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very nice texture to this quilt. A little hard to see in some of the pictures because the front of it is so busy, but just a nice, this would be great on any quilt that you wanted some touch of nature but not so much flowers. It was just a nice leaves and some just a connection of those leaves. It was a really, really nice print. And it looks like we used a cream color thread. I didn't write this down on the intake form, what color I used. But it looks really nice. I think this was a really pretty quilt. Love the borders that she added. Those were a nice addition as well. So you can do the disappearing 9-patch pattern in the middle and then add a couple borders around it. And I like how she put the green border first, and that kind of set the pattern in the middle, and then added the leafy border, the autumn colors around the edge again. If you'd done it the opposite way, I think it would have been too busy with the autumn colors right next to the other ones. That green was a nice, gave a nice rest for the eye, I guess I want to say. It gave a nice frame to the pattern itself, and then with the border. So I'm going to take a quick break because they are combining corn in the field right next to the house here today, and it's going to get really loud here for just a minute. So while I let the combine go by, how about you look at some pictures of the other autumn quilt that I have. The combines made it past, and that's a great segue right into autumn quilts, isn't it? This quilt was adorable. I absolutely loved it. This is all Primitive Gatherings, so Primitive Gatherings pattern, Primitive Gatherings flannels, Primitive Gatherings panel that was used in this. Absolutely beautiful. So all of the pictures that you see, those are all a panel that, this is Ginger's quilt. That is all part of a panel that Ginger cut apart and put into those blocks. Now, Primitive Gatherings has this in the white, with the white background, also with an ash background, so it makes it for a darker quilt, almost like a very dark gray. It'd be the background of the panel for that one. So you'll have to go check that out and look at it. It gives a whole different feel to the quilt. This one's very bright with the white backing, very bright and autumn feel. The other one is just a little darker, but very pretty as well. All of the flannels on this are from Primitive Gatherings, which is Lisa Bonjean, if you're not familiar. I love their flannels. Very soft, but not heavy. I've worked with some flannels in the past that are just, they're very soft, but they're so thick, it's very hard to use, especially for small pieces. And Primitive Gatherings has a very nice line of fabric, of flannels that are thin enough that you can do small piecing like this. So it looks like the quilt, the pattern itself is a lot of half square triangles around all of those, around all of the pieces from the panel. Now, there is a wool applique pattern that's very similar to this, and let me find the name of it for you real quick. That is called Live a Thankful Life. So if you like this look of the quilt but don't want to use a panel, you'd prefer to do the wool applique, you've got to go check that one out too. Live a Thankful Life, and that's a pattern by Primitive Gatherings as well. Beautiful, beautiful quilt. And if you love to do wool applique, I'm sure you would love to do that one. So, do you see the pantograph? Did I not say earlier that I love this diagonal plaid? I think this adds a very fallish, to me it's a plaid print, so diagonal plaid. It just really adds to all the fall vibe of this quilt, and the backing fabric of this quilt is absolutely adorable too, that rich orange colorway there. Love, 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 and you can really see the diagonal plaid on that one. So this one I did a little bit bigger from what it looks like. It's been several weeks since I've done this quilt, so I don't remember the measurements itself of how large I made the diagonal plaid. But again, I always try to orient it to either the blocks that are in the quilt or the size of the quilt, just to make it pleasing to the eye. If I would have made this smaller like I did on the baby quilt, it would have absolutely it would have been too much. So try to make your designs scalable to the piecing that's in the quilt top or the size of the quilt top. Not so much the size of a quilt. So what I mean by that, if it's a baby quilt, I tend to go smaller. You can do the diagonal plaid very large, and I have done it. I tend to like a lot more texture than that, so I don't like a lot of the big open spaces. So this quilt measures 58 by 67, so again, a nice lap size quilt. And to me, I would guess that I did this about a 4 or 5, probably a 4-inch square for the diagonal plaid. Love it. The thread color. So I took a break real quick there so I could run and get my thread colors so that I could show you the difference, the slight variations in these colors, but I think it makes a big difference on the quilts. So in this autumn quilt, I used Omni 3007, and this one doesn't have a name on it. Some of them have names. So like this one says 3004 and it says cream on it. This one doesn't have a name, it just has a number. So 3007. So you can, let me hold up. So this is cream. This is the lightest of my cream colors. I have white ones also, but lightest of the creams. And then this would probably be the next. This one, you can just kind of see how it just a tad bit darker. And then 30, no, I have this one. This would be in between. This one is 3005 and it is called Almond. So just a tad bit different, a tad bit more tannish, almost a little more gray, I want to say. Then this one is 3007. So there is a 3006. I don't have that one. And then this is the 3007. So do you see how it got just a tad bit darker? So when I'm auditioning different colors, so if somebody says on their intake form, I want a thread that matches with my quilt top, I'll lay different threads across there and just to see. And so this one I chose the 3007. It did not overpower those white areas because there were some white, you know, with that panel. Those were white, very white, but I didn't want to use white on it because of the rich colors of the fall ones. I wanted to kind of keep with that fall theme. So I went with this one, 3007. I didn't do the lightest cream. I didn't do the darkest tan. Here's like a, I need more hands. They get even darker. So this is the one I used. I'll keep it here in my left. Then this one is also a tan. And I've not studied color theory, so this is just what my eye likes. This one has a little more of yellow, not so much of a gray. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I see. And then you have a little darker. There's a lot of numbers between. This is 3068, so not in the line of numbers. 3012, we got darker. And then here is a 3016. So very slight variations in color, but when I'm laying them out on a quilt, it can make a big difference, honestly. So this is the one I went with. It blended well with the white areas, wasn't too overpowering by going to a dark, but then on those rich fall colors, it still blended well. You can see from the pictures, it still blended well. And I really like the look of this. It added a lot of texture. There's a tad bit of color there on the white, but I don't think it overpowered it at all. You can still really see the pictures from the panel really nicely. I think it worked out really well. So hopefully on the rest of these quilts today, I've written down the number, because looking at a quilt, if I'm just looking at a picture or looking at one of the quilts here that I'll be showing you today, it's hard for me to tell on there which one I chose. But if I write it down, then I can definitely show you, and you can see the difference when I'm holding all of them up between the different threads. All right. So that was Ginger's quilt. Very nice. Let's move on to, I have 3 quilts today that all use Camille Roskelley's fabric Nantucket Summer. So how about we do some of those? The first one here, I will show you some larger pictures of this one right here. I have 3 quilts to show you of Lisa's today, and everyone is just absolutely beautiful. I'll try to keep the blues up here because I know with the whites they have quite a bit of reflection off the lights. So I'll try to keep the blues so it doesn't blind you. This pattern is called Seaside, and it's the pattern by Camille Roskelley. I love the largeness of this. So you've seen, Camille does this a lot. She'll have a smaller pattern that uses this in a smaller way, and then making it more modern by blowing one block up really, really large. So quilts like this go together really quickly. It does take larger sections of fabric. Not that it takes any more fabric than a quilt this size with smaller piecing, but you just have to make sure you have larger pieces of fabric. Can't use all those scraps for this. Love, love, love these color lines. Nantucket Summer was such a big hit for Camille Roskelley, and everyone is just loving this, and all the different fabrics and all of the different patterns you can use it in. Absolutely beautiful. The backing was one of the florals. So classy. Just absolutely love that floral. Pantograph. This one, when I was talking to Lisa, and I said, I just really feel like this one needs a lot of texture. There are so many open spaces, especially, on the white. I know that's going to be hard to see, but on the white, it really, really shows up. On the blue, you can see it too. This is Wishbone. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh my goodness, I love the texture it added to this quilt. Love it. So on this one, I used white, and I used the natural white. This is 3002. Use the natural white. I do have one other white. I'll hold on that. This one is called Bright White and 3001. I hope that white doesn't reflect too much, but you can see how much brighter this one is. And I have used this on a lot of quilts that have a lot of white as the backing fabric, not the backing, the background fabric. I've used the bright white, but on this one I felt with the blues that the bright white was going to be too much, so I went with the natural white. Absolutely beautiful. All Nantucket Summer. She said there was one Sunwashed blue by Yoder in this one. So you can see it blends really well. The two lines blend really well together there. Absolutely beautiful. And Nantucket Summer you can still find. You can't find, from what I can see from like Fat Quarter Shop, you can still find yardage. It's a little harder to get it all in like pre-cuts. So if it was ever done that way. I assume it was. Kits put out, I don't know. I can't follow every line, but I'm assuming it was. But you can still find yardage from it, so if you're wanting to make a quilt from that line, or you can wait till her next one comes out in the spring. It's just as beautiful. All right, let's move on to one. I'll get to that one in just a minute. I have another quilt that was used Nantucket Summer, and let me insert some pictures of this one. This is Ellen's quilt, and isn't this beautiful? This again uses all Camille Roskilly, not just Nantucket Summer, but she's also used blues and whites from Dwell and from Sunnyside, but all three are Camille Roskilly lines. The blue and white with the Star of David, this is Bonnie Hunter's quilt that she started this quilt along probably about a month ago, and I've linked her initial blog post about it. I don't know if the pattern itself is still available. I didn't go that deep to look into it, but the Star of David is paper pieced, but she says you can do it with any 30 or any ruler that has 30 or 60 degree markings on your ruler. You'll be able to make this Star of David pattern. I like that Ellen added the one heart in the middle. The pattern that Bonnie Hunter put out actually had a different setting. Ellen created this setting on her own, and it's absolutely beautiful. Love the blue cornerstones that she added in, the striped fabric as well in between or around all the Stars of David, and then that one patchwork heart is really, really beautiful. And she did have a label on the back, which was really neat, and the backing fabric was really neat too. So for the pantograph for this one, we chose squared. So this is very similar to diagonal plaid, very similar to diagonal plaid. This probably has a couple more repeats around it than the diagonal plaid does, and this is very squared off. But I like the texture that this added to the quilt top. This was going to a family friend, and it was a male, and so I didn't want to do something hearts or something that was too frilly or fancy. I wanted it to be a serene, comforting quilt, and so like the squared pantograph. Again, use the natural white thread in this one. A lot of whites in here, but the bright white, I didn't want to brighten the quilt up too much, and that thread kind of does. It's a brighter white, so the natural white, while it doesn't take away from the white fabrics, it doesn't brighten them up either. So just a beautiful quilt. Very nice. So you can go look at Bonnie Hunter's website there. I know she started her next quilt along that she does over the holidays already, but you'll want to go see her fabric and her setting for this one, not her fabric, but her pattern and her setting for this Star of David. The pattern itself is called Stars of Hope, and it was a really special quilt. My third quilt is here behind me that has Nantucket Summer, and here are some larger pictures of that one. This is Debra's quilt, and Debra used the same Nantucket Summer fabric line, and she also used a Camille Roskelley pattern. This is Camille's pattern called Swoon. This quilt, the pattern itself measures 74 by 74. Debra made this larger so that it would be king size, and this one actually measures 108 by 108. This is a super heavy quilt just because it's so big, so I may not be able to hold up too much. But what I really like about this quilt is that she's used the dark blue, is a solid blue for the background fabric of this one. Gives a whole new dimension to the quilt. It's really, really pretty. So Swoon has the same block repeated all through the pattern. The blocks themselves are very large. To me it looks like probably a 16, I don't have that in front of me, but maybe a 16-inch finished block. Yep, a 16-inch finished block. And the pattern says this is fat quarter friendly, so you could use your favorite fat quarter bundle for this. Let me see, it probably takes a couple of them. 16 fat quarters for the blocks, 1.5 yards of sashing, 3 yards for the background. That would be for the 74 by 74. So if you want to make it as large as Debra did, you'll need to add some extra in there. Very, very pretty. Very pretty. So for the pantograph, you can see we did the Easy Baptist fan. We did this in a light gray thread. So let me show you my grays. So Debra actually sent me a tiny little piece of her thread that she wanted, that she had done the piecing with, and asked if I could do a similar gray. So we went with this one. This is 3023, and this is a light gray thread. I also have 2 other grays that I use sometimes on different quilts, the medium gray and the dark gray. Now on this quilt, the light gray, it almost gives off a cream color look on the fabric. On that, it is a light gray, but it almost gives off a cream color look to it. Very pretty. Love the Baptist fan. We talked about this last week, how each row nests inside the other one. So the bottom of the pantograph here, and then this is the top of the next row here, and it just nests right up inside there. Stitches out so nice. So nice. Really, really love this one. Very classy quilt. Let me see if I can show you the backing fabric. Another floral. This is the tiny flowers. Not a lot of vines in this. It's just an individual flower with some white ones around it. Really pretty. Beautiful quilt. 108 by 108. I've had the question, how large of a quilt can I handle on my long arm? So my long arm is on a 12-foot table, but you can't use that entire amount of space for a quilt because the machine can only get so close to the ends. Plus you have leaders on there as well. So the largest quilt that I could handle, the backing fabric has to be no more than 128, 130 inches wide, or at least one side of your quilt that way. The backing fabric, so the quilt itself would need to be 8 inches smaller than that. So we're 108, still had plenty of room on either side. And but usually people don't have that big of a quilt, but that's how big I could handle if I absolutely needed to. And that's only one side of the quilt. So as long as one side of your quilt is that amount, that's the way I would orient it, if that makes sense. So say I have a 80 by 120. The 80 would go on the leaders that way, and the 120 I can go, you know, that long. That's not a problem. So that would be a very big bed, wouldn't it? Yeah, 108. This is a very large quilt in itself. Very pretty, very nice. All right, so Debra will be getting that back. So those are the 3 quilts that I had that were Nantucket Summer. I have 3 more to share with you today. You can see I have a Sew Scrappy Spools, I have a Christmas one, and then more of a spring kind of colorway down below. So let's start with the Sew Scrappy Spools. So this is the first Sew Scrappy Spools quilt that I have had on the Longarm. Isn't this beautiful? Oh my goodness, does this make me want to finish mine? So pretty. This is Lisa's quilt, and I wanted to point out some of the blocks, how I did mine different from Lisa, and it is such a neat way to look at different things. So Lisa said she used all scrappy stuff from her stash all the way back from, you know, 20 years ago. It could go back that far, maybe even farther, I don't know. But I noticed different lines. I've done many quilts for Lisa, so even some of the fabrics in here, I know we did I had a quilt from that. Others, I can see 30s reproduction patterns in here. Here's some of those. Just all different ones. All different ones. I actually have this sideways. I see that now, because the hearts and the tulips were upside down. So let me show you a couple blocks that I wanted to show you. Let me figure out where I'm at here. First of all, I didn't bring the names of these blocks, but I wanted to show you like this star block right here. Lisa chose all white fabrics for the middle of that star. Let me show you mine, or one of them that I made, just so you can see the difference and what a neat different effect that has. So when I made my stars, I made them very scrappy with all different fabrics, and I did a lighter backing fabric or background fabric, and then did the star darker. And now notice how Lisa has done it. These are all different white prints. They're not the same white print. By using all white and then doing the background fabric is dark. I love that effect. Very pretty. Very pretty. So those are an option if you're still working on your Sew Scrappy Spools, whether you do a light print as the backing and then the either scrappy, or you could do it all one color even in the dark, or the dark background with the white for the star is a really, really neat effect. For the hearts, here's one of Lisa's heart blocks. Lisa chose to do the same fabric for both sides of the heart. And let me show you mine. The pattern actually called for 2 different fabrics, but you don't have to do it that way. So here you can see mine, I had 2 different fabrics for the hearts, where Lisa's only has the one. Really pretty. Great options here. And you could even do the same thing, or you could do a darker fabric as the backing or the background, and then do a lighter color as the heart. That would work really nice too. All right, flowers. The tulip blocks. I've been pulling some fabrics for mine. That's the last block I need to make, is the tulip one, so I've been pulling mine out. And I'm noticing when I was doing this one for Lisa, this is a batik one. How pretty is that? The pattern itself actually calls for all the same fabrics for this leaf, I think. I was pulling the same green for both the stem and the leaves. But now looking at Lisa's, she's got a lighter here, she's got a lighter one and a darker one for the leaves. Really pretty, so I may have to rethink mine. I was trying to make it super simple because I was wanting to get it done. And so I was picking picking one color to do the leaves and the stem. Now look at this one, this tulip block. She's done it in a red, white, and blue theme. So the flower itself, the tulip itself is red, but the stem she's done in a red, white, and blue stripe, and then blue leaves. How cute! How cute! I love, love, love that. Love that. Let me see if I can find another tulip, because those were really pretty. Are those the ones that I noticed because I'm working on the tulip ones now? Oh, here's one. A red tulip, and then she's done the green leaves and a different color for the stem as well. Love her colors. Very pretty. Uses lots of scraps. She's got batiks. She's got red, white, and blue. She's got blues, pinks. Here's a heart again where she used the same color for both sides of the heart. Adorable. So for her spool ends, she has used the same print for all of them. It's like a light tan with some blue stars on it. And then she used blue cornerstones instead of doing scrappy. So the fabric, or the pattern, calls for scrappy cornerstones on all of it. And Lisa said she felt like it grounded the quilt a little bit more because of all the scrappiness and the rest of it. It grounded the quilt a little bit more to use one solid color. It's different blues. They're not all the same blue, but very similar, to use blue cornerstones for all of those. Great idea. Now her blocks themselves all have different whites as the side print on the blocks, but the sashing and the border around the edge uses this white. It's white with little, let me see if she gave me the, I don't see the name of this print. Background, Scrappy, it just says Scrappy Low Volume. So it may have just been something that she had, but the border and the sashing is all this same print. It has tiny little bit of color, just these little loops or little circles with a little bit of color, and then gray pluses. It's very pretty. For her backing fabric, she used a Lumina 108-inch wide. This is by Blank Company, and she used a blue. And for the pantograph, we went with texture again, and this pantograph is called 2 Scoops. So very similar to what we just saw on Wishbone, the Wishbone one on the that large, or on this one right here. Wishbone is rounded. This one is more like an ice cream cone. So you can kind of see, I don't know how well you can see. So Wishbone, back and forth, where this one is much straighter. So it comes in almost like you're going to do a triangle, but you round the top of it. So you're coming in straight and then you round the top of it. So very similar to the Wishbone, just a little bit different dimension there. Love this one. Adds a lot of texture as well. Use the natural white thread on this one to blend with the colors and the white. Sorry for all the glare. So pretty. Very pretty. Makes me so excited to get mine done. Like I said, I've been pulling the fabrics for my last blocks, and then hopefully I'll be getting mine all together and be able to show you that very soon, very soon. Let's move on to this Christmas quilt right here. We have seen several of these tree quilts. Each one that I've done, actually I think this is the third one, each one's been a different pattern. So if you're interested in one of these quilts that has trees, you'll have to go back to several of the videos and see the different patterns, see which one you like best. Each one's just a tad bit different. but all the same sort of Christmas tree or tree lot. This one actually is called Tree Lot. This is a pattern by Cozy Quilt Designs. And Judy said that she used all batiks from Jordan Fabrics for her quilt. Super pretty, super pretty. All different. She's done mostly reds and greens, but there are some blues thrown in. Very nice for Christmas. Her I get the two mixed up all the time. I say backing or background. Her background of the blocks is this batik, kind of has a snowflake effect, and this one is more of a cream color. And then for the sashing, she's used the all the vertical sashing. She's used this lighter one, not lighter one, it's more of a bluish batik to do in that. And you can see she's used that in the tree itself on some of these. Just a very nice, oh my goodness, very festive. And then she's done a red border all around the edge. The backing fabric is, again, not really a batik, but kind of a mottled cream color. Very pretty. The pantograph on this one is called Jolly Holly. Is that the one? Yeah. It's called Jolly Holly, and it has some holly leaves right here. You can see that with the little swirl inside of the Jolly Holly, inside of the holly leaf. Maybe you can see it a little bit better on the back. See the holly leaf, and then it has the swirl that comes in. A couple other swirls. A very nice pantograph for Christmas quilts. Very pretty. On this one, we chose, I didn't write down the thread color on this one. It looks like a cream color. A pretty basic cream color. Very pretty. So if you're wanting to make one of these, this is 2.5 inch strips. I know the pattern says it comes together very quickly, and you can use up batik jelly rolls if you have those. 2.5 inch strips of scrap basket if you have them. It would come together really nice. Very nice. All right, I have one more quilt down here at the bottom. Another beautiful quilt. This is one of Lisa's as well. This pattern is called Starbound, and it's by Primrose Cottage. And she used all Beautiful Day fabrics by Coriander. Absolutely gorgeous. The same block repeated. This quilt measures 78 by 78. The quilt block itself, again, a very large block. Try to get this out here so you can see. 5 inch, it looks like 5 inch squares around the edge, and then a star in the middle, and then with some sashing, and then you're connecting a block that's just like that. So cute. Starbound. Love this. Very simple. It's not a, you know, a really complicated quilt, but very striking. The large blocks are, and the fabric way that she chose is really pretty. Now you have to see the backing. The backing is a minky. This is the Shannon Cuddle. This is done in silver, and Lisa bought a wide backing, so I think it was sold as 90 inches, and so no piecing had to be done. And she actually had this sent to me straight from the Fat Quarter Shop. That's an option if you're purchasing minky or some other backing fabric for your quilts, and you'll be sending your quilts to me. When you order it from Fat Quarter Shop, just go ahead and have it sent directly to me. That'll save you in shipping. You don't have to pay it, have it shipped to you and then shipped again to me. It can come directly to me. Just send me an email, let me know that that's on its way, so when it arrives, I know who it belongs to. You can see the texture. That is all pantograph. all pantograph. So this is called Cottonwood, this pantograph is, and this is a pattern by Julie Hurt. And love her designs. The 60s mod butterfly that we've done many times is one of hers. Love this. Isn't that wonderful? The flower theme repeated from the front. A lot of flowers in the Beautiful Day line. And just love the texture. So I did a white color thread. This again is the natural white. But like we've talked about before with Minky, it just soaks right into the backing. You don't, the backing fabric, you don't see the color of thread at all, but it creates all that texture on the Minky. Absolutely love it. Love, love, love it. I'm really thinking that I may use this pantograph on my calico garden. What do you think? I really like this. I like the texture it provides, and so, so pretty. So there you have it. I hope one of these quilts is something that you would want to make for your own. This has been so fun this week with all of the Nantucket Summer I've gotten to work with, and seeing a Sew Scrappy Spools one done. It makes me want to get my own finished. And this was actually the first time I've used this Cottonwood pantograph by Julie Hurt, and just makes me want to use it some more. So as soon as I can, I'll get that added to my website so that you can see that when you're picking out pantographs for yourself. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you're making lots of time to quilt, because every quilt is worth finishing. We'll see you next week.